What's going on, guys? It is the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network and presented to you by WynnBET. Bet $100 at WynnBET and you get a $100 free bet. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. You use the promo code NFCBEAST for 15% off, active until the Eagles or Giants lose their next game. And shout out to Fantasy Turf Nate. I don't know if you know Nate on Twitter, but he won the DeAndre Swift signed jersey. Just got to send me your address. I'm sending that one on to you. I might hold on to it for a couple more days, though. It's a pretty nice jersey. So we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about TNF props. We're going to do a sleeper redraft of the 2022 rookies based on what we know now. And we're going to talk about rebuilding, as we've already talked about rebuilding a little bit, and we want to go through a case study. And we had a question come in from a listener. So let's start with the question, then go with the TNF props. What was the question again, Brad?
Yeah, it was a trade question around Greg. Which side would you prefer? Greg Dulcich and Cam Akers for oh my God, I should have left it up on my phone.
Zamir White and David Bell.
There we go. Zamir White, David Bell, and a 2023 third. 2023 third, Zamir White and David Bell. And for me, I'm on the Zamir White, David Bell side of this. I just look at a situation where, they moved, the Las Vegas Raiders moved Kenyon Drake, Josh Jacobs, no fifth-year option, even though he looks really good right now. Zamir White could be walking into a starting role with the Las Vegas Raiders next season. David Bell looks like he may be an option once Deshaun Watson comes back. And that third, Cam Akers, is basically dead to me. I moved him before the season. I am ecstatic that I did so because I don't know that he's worth literally anything right now. The Los Angeles Rams came out and said, this dude will not play football for us again this year, even though Sean McVay kind of came back and was like, well, we're not ruling it out. Yeah, you did. It's too late. You can't go back on that. So it's basically Greg Dulcich for the 3, and I'm going to take the 3 over that right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that Cam Akers is absolutely dead in value. There's somebody in your league that will bite on Cam Akers. You just got to hold right now. You're not going to be able to get a lot for him. You probably are going to have to, bite the bullet if you do. But he's probably going to get cut or traded. And at that point, he's going to get some value. People get excited when somebody goes somewhere, whether it's legitimate or not, they will get excited about it. And Cam Akers is someone that, there's someone in the league that likes him. I understand the positional value of wanting to go get Greg Dulcich. It's like David Bell is a dime a dozen, and there's so many wide receivers in this league. And even if Deshaun Watson comes and has a good connection with him, Amari Cooper's there, and Donovan Peoples-Jones is there. Like David Njoku's there. Like Kareem Hunt. Like what's he going to be? 3rd, 4th, 5th in the pecking order? Zamir White, I do think is something to think about, but I'm going to go with the other side here just because of positional value. And Greg Dulcich, he could be the second or best tight end in this class. And it looks like he is clear-cut going to be the starter for the Denver Broncos. So I'm going to give you that one. I'm sorry to split the decision on here, but good luck and thanks for the question. If you guys got any more questions, throw them in the chat and make sure you guys just DM us. You can DM Brad at FF Bourbon Dude or at Dynasty Dorks, or just add us all on SGPN Fantasy. Make sure you check that out. So let's talk about some TNF props. We want to talk about one of the sponsors, and that's Underdog. So Underdog, if you go into Underdog, they'll match your deposit up to $100, and so you can go on the website and learn about that. sportsgamblingpodcast.com. But Brad, what are some props you like tonight?
Yeah, for me, I got on a little bit early, and I've seen the line shift around a little bit. I'm pretty high on Alvin Kamara going into this week. The Arizona defense is kind of like the bottom 10 in rushing, and they've tied for the most touchdowns allowed to the running back position through the first 6 weeks of the season. And we've seen Alvin Kamara really get much more involved over the last 2 weeks. They kind of realized we were really messing up not getting him the ball more often. And he's gone over that 100-yard mark combined in the last 2 weeks. And I see a very similar situation. I got him at 92.5 rushing and receiving earlier this morning. And now he's up over 100 on that mark right now. I think the last I saw was 101.5. I would probably still go the over there. I really do think, especially with Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry still out. I know they got Chris Olave back, but I do think he's still a smash play for that over. And then the other one is Kyler Murray over 32.5 rushing yards. He's been running the ball a lot lately. I think he's got over 10 carries 2 out of the last 3 weeks. He's top 40 yards the last 2 weeks. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that with some of that pass rush that he's going to feel from the New Orleans Saints front four. So I do expect Kyler Murray to go over that 32.5 tonight as well.
Yeah, and they've moved the lineup on DeAndre Hopkins, which tells you that they're getting nervous. It was 59.5. Now it's 68.5 receiving yards. And it's also how many catches? 5.5. I thought they'd move it to 5.7. I'm like, what is 5.7? 5.5 receptions. It used to be 4.5. So Marshawn Lattimore and Paulson Adebo are both out tonight, and those are the top 2 corners for the Saints. So and DeAndre Hopkins is putting out hype videos. So I'm gonna go with DeAndre Hopkins. I think 5.5 receptions is where I'm gonna go. I don't know if he gets the yardage, 68.5. Very likely, but I think he still gets targets. Marquise Brown is out indefinitely. Rondell Moore is still there. Greg Dortch is still a thing. But you're going to see a lot of Ertz and a lot of Hopkins tonight. And I think they get a chance to attack the secondary without the top 2 corners.
Yep.
All right. Any other props you want to talk about before we get into the
if you're a touchdown scorer kind of person, I do like the Alvin Kamara anytime touchdown as well. So if you want to kind of parlay those things together, the odds are pretty good right now. If you throw those 3 together, I think I got just a little over plus 800 for a 3-leg. So I'm pretty happy with that. And I'll keep my fingers crossed and hope that Alvin Kamara has a game tonight.
And then I'm going to go with Traquan Smith. So Byron Murphy is going to get Chris Olave. And as much as I love Chris Olave, that's going to be a fun matchup. I'm going to go with Traquan Smith here. Traquan Smith, 2.5 receptions, 26.5 yards. I think he gets both of those. He looked really good last week. And I think that continues with Jarvis Landry and Michael Thomas both out. All right. Well, let's check in with the sponsors real quick. And then we're going to get into redrafting the 2022 rookie class. I want to talk to you about WynnBET. If you're thinking about joining WynnBET, now is the perfect time. New users who bet $100 get a $100 free bet. Looking to join the WynnBET Biggest Winners Club? Whoever hits the biggest parlay on WynnBET's Oddwise gets a $1,000 free bet. Last week's winner of the Biggest Winners Club was a New York bettor who hit a 15,066 parlay on an all live on money lines, wagering $110.40 to win $16,743. And this guy was a big winner. WynnBET truly, hashtag DGens only. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WynnBET. Just so they know we sent you. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET to claim your free bet today. Offer subject to change in terms and condition at WynnBET.com. Must be 21 or older and present in the state where playthrough WynnBET is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call 1-800-522-4700. So, Brad, let's bring it up, and I'll give you the honors of the first pick. Who would be the first pick if you had to redo the whole thing and redraft again?
It's definitely going to be Breece Hall for me right now. I'm not going to lie. I am still wavering right now between, assuming this is a super flex. Are we saying this is a super flex league?
A single, and these are not our teams. This is just kind of how we would draft them in order.
So single QB.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, this is Breece Hall, hands down. I mean, there's zero question for me here. He's over the top of any of these wide receivers right now. I just think you see the volume that he's getting right now. They're shifting that offense to be focused on him, and he's the focal point. I think it's going to continue to be that way. He's going to be the workhorse. So Breece Hall is definitely my pick at the 101.
And so I have to ask, if it was Superflex, would Kenny Pickett still be in consideration? I know you're pretty high on him.
He absolutely would for me. He absolutely would. Look, there's only 32 starting quarterbacks. There's only 32. There are many more startable running backs in the league, and I get there's that positional scarcity still. But look, I'm rolling with a quarterback that's going to be there. We've seen him in at least a game and a half before he got hurt last week. He put up over 300 yards in his first NFL start. He came in and looked really good in the second half when he came in week 4. So I just think he's a guy that is really underestimated. People look at him and they want to compare him to Teddy Two Gloves because he's got small hands and all that. It's just nonsense. He played in the weather at Pitt. I'm not worried about it. I think he's going to be a pretty solid starter for a quarterback. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback in the league or anything like that, but he's a guy that you can put in your super flex and be okay with it. And I think that's worth the 101 right now if you're in a super flex league.
And that it might be a hot take for some people, and some people might be right on board with that. I'm putting out my Superflex rankings article coming up, my updated dynasty rankings, and I do have Kenny Pickett up at 17, but I would not use the 101 on him. I'm going to go with Drake London at the number 2 spot and stick with that. I know that right now it's not been so great for Drake, but I still think there's more to come with him, and he's a receiver. And he looks good. He had a little bit of an ankle injury, and it's been a little bit of an issue, but things will get better.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm now I might shake things up a little bit here, and it's between 2 players for me. It's either Kenneth Walker or Ken Walker or Chris Olave, and I think I'm going to actually go Chris Olave here over Treylon Burks and Garrett Wilson. I was really high on him coming out of Ohio State. I had him above Garrett Wilson to begin with in my pre-draft rankings for rookies. And you've seen it on the field already. He is that deep threat for the New Orleans Saints. And whether it's Jameis or Andy Dalton, he's getting targets even with other players on the field. And you just see how much of a stud this guy is. So I'm going to go Chris Olave at the 103 right now.
I don't hate that at all. I actually, I'm doing a mock draft redrafting 2022 class article with 4 other writers, and I took Chris Olave at the 103. So I completely agree with that pick. I'm going to take your other one, Ken Walker. Sorry, Ken like Barbie. I'm taking him right here. He's he's not going to blow you away with the passing game, but he can catch the ball. But this is more of your Nick Chubb type of a running back. And he's already shown you he's got big playability. He's got, he's a big dude. He's got nimble feet, and he can break away. He's got some highlight runs already in his young career. I think he's going to take this job and just run away with it. I don't think Rashad Penny will be back next year with how good Ken Walker looks.
All right, so this one is a little bit tougher for me now. Now we're in the spot where I might start calling my shots, and believe it or not, Treylon Burks is not in this conversation. Garrett Wilson is not in this conversation. For me, it is between a guy who hasn't even touched the field yet and Jameson Williams, or it's Dameon Pierce here at the 105. And look, everybody, I get it. Jameson Williams has not touched the field yet, but we've seen, and I'm not saying DJ Shark has had like this great year or anything like that, but we've seen him produce in 2 of the 3 weeks that he was on the field in that kind of deep threat role. And it looked really good. And we've seen Jared Goff air the ball out a little bit. And I do think there's a potential that he is still the quarterback for the Detroit Lions going into the 2023 season. So don't sleep on Jameson Williams, I guess is what I'm telling you. And right now you might be able to get him at a pretty decent discount because whoever drafted him could be in contention. You might be able to move a solid starting piece for them to get a little youth and to get a guy who could arguably have been the best receiver in this draft had he not gotten hurt in that national championship game. But with all that being said, I cannot pass on what we've seen from Dameon Pierce on the field. He's a starting caliber running back. I went back and looked through my notes in 2021, looking at that 2021 draft class. And when I was watching Kadarius Toney, I have notes that says Pierce, ? because I saw him playing in 2021 and liked what I saw. So I'm going to go with Dameon Pierce at the 105. Might not be a hot take right now because of how he's played, but he's my pick right now.
Yeah, no, I think there's plenty of guys. I talked about it a couple weeks ago or last week on this show, and you were a couple bourbons deep, and you were like, "What do you mean running backs?" And I said, "Brad, this class has absolutely shut some people up. There are some very good people, and I like Kenny Pickett. And I just I wrote about how I like him, but I just like these other guys. I think are really really good." And even in superflex formats, this is kind of the park where I would be going with Kenny Pickett. And I'm not a Traylon Burks guy, so he's not even on my radar. Jameson Williams is on my radar, and Garrett Wilson is on the radar. So I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson right here and probably leave you Jameson Williams. And that'll hurt a little bit because I do like him. So, but Garrett Wilson, the news of Elijah Moore is a little weird. Elijah Moore basically is not happy with the team. He's not happy with his role, and he wants out. And so Elijah Moore is likely going to be out of town, but he is definitely not playing this week. And so Elijah Moore is out this week due to conduct detrimental to the team and how he handled himself today. And so you'll see some Denzel Mims, some action from Denzel Mims as he gets elevated up the depth chart.
Yeah, and just to add just a smidge on that, I would go buy Elijah Moore right now. With that news of him sitting out, he's basically getting benched for the game. I think it's a buy window for him. He's a great talent. And if he does go to a wide receiver needy team, you saw what he could do as a rookie last season, and he put up some big games for you. And I think you could see more of that in a better situation, quite frankly. So I like the buy low window for Elijah Moore. And you were right. Jameson Williams is my pick here. There's no way I'm passing on him right now at the 107 for all the reasons I talked about before, and I'm not going to reiterate.
Yeah, and going back to Elijah Moore, he's got he's still got 2 more years on his contract, plus he's got to finish this season out. But the way the contracts work with rookies, a lot of that's tied up in sign-on bonuses and things like that. So a team that picks him up is getting him basically on a 2.5-year contract, and they're going to have to pay 60 or 50% of the salary because actually probably less than that because it's already paid out. So so he will be very, very targeted. We talked about it earlier on Monday or last Monday was that the receiver class is really not that sexy as far as the free agents. And it's got some really good receivers coming out in the draft. But if you can go get Elijah Moore for a third or something like that, like you're going to jump all over it. And you could easily see that happen with how things are going. And all these teams that are in the market for an Odell Beckham Jr., that could be where they go because they're going to get somebody that can play now and don't have to wait. So you could see the Rams, or you could see the Chiefs. You could see teams like that. AJ Brown, Elijah Moore are buddies, and you'd be nasty to see him go over to Philly. I would hate it. But
that would suck.
That's something that can happen. I would love Elijah Moore to go to my Giants. So the next player on the board, I will go with Traylon Burks here. Still sticking with him. He's still a very talented player. He's just this year is just not looking so good for him.
Yeah, so I'm sticking. We got a little bit of a run on the wide receivers, and I'm sticking with them. But I'm going to go with a little bit further down the list. That's going to be George Pickens, wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I just like what I see out of him. You see that alpha dog mentality from him when he's on the field. We've seen some great catches. He's got a good chemistry with Kenny Pickett, whom I also like, and we expect them to be playing for at least 3 or 4 years together at a minimum. And Chase Claypool is likely out of town next season. So that just gives even more work for George Pickens. So I'm taking George Pickens at the 109.
And it could be even sooner with the way they're talking. They're talking about Claypool to the Packers is one of those things we're talking about. So I like that pick. Kind of wish I would have been able to see the board a little more clear. I might have took Pickens over Burks there. And so this is where it gets interesting because this is where there's a lot of question marks on the board where, James Cook hasn't really done too much. Sky Moore's done nothing. Christian Watson's done less than nothing. Actually, Sky Moore's done less than nothing. But Jahan Dotson's look really good. So give me Jahan Dotson here. Stick with the receivers. Jahan Dotson he's almost already hit his touchdown totals for the year. He's only played 3 games.
Yep, I love it. And I'm sticking. We got this huge run on wide receivers. I'm not going to be the one to break it. This is a little bit of a reach, I feel like, but I think Sky Moore is at a low right now. I think getting him around here, it's a little bit lower than what you were getting him in the draft in early 2022 before the season started. But you've started to see a little bit more involvement. He's being put in the backfield on some plays. Now, it hasn't garnered any touches yet, but they are definitely moving him around in those formations a little bit. And I think it's going to come to fruition where he starts to see a little more opportunity. Now, he has to stop botching kick returns. This cannot be a continuous thing for him. He's got to secure the ball, but I do think there are brighter days ahead for Sky Moore, and I'm going to take a little bit of a reach here for him at the 111.
All right, and we'll try to speed up through the second round a little bit so we don't go into the game. So I started a rebuild in week 3 after seeing problems with my depth all over and receiver in general. 12-team, one quarterback PPR, no tight end premium. He sent Kamara Pierce for a 23 and 24 first from a paper tiger. I'm not sure what the paper tiger is. A paper tiger is this going to be a good pick?
I don't know.
Ended up buying Justin Jefferson for my 2023 first. That's how you do it. Yeah, that's don't forget about buying players when you're rebuilding. I've talked about it in my article. I talked about like getting Calvin Ridley and Khalil Herbert, just getting some of these players added onto your trades. But this is a monster. A team that looks good.
So he gave up 2 firsts, Jerry Jeudy and Sky Moore, to get Justin Jefferson, it looks like.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm all aboard that trade. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful move. And I have not heard the paper tiger reference, but I love it. And so we may have to change the name of this show to the Paper Tigers.
Oh goodness!
That's awesome. Kamara is not going to have a whole lot of value next year, and we talked about it already. Like Pierce, he looks good, but we don't know what's going to happen with this. They're already making some changes in the front office, things like that. Then he sent Dak. So this guy's got our case study for
getting those moves ready, baby.
Then he sent Dak Rush mid-second for Kittle and Jelani Woods. And you said it was tight end premium already.
And it was 1 QB, right?
And it's 1 QB. That's okay. Yeah, man. You're killing it. You're killing it.
Yeah.
Dak, we'll see how he comes back from that injury. Quarterbacks that come back from these hand injuries and things like that have grip problems, turnovers, some accuracy. Dak he's a good quarterback, but I mean, if you're rebuilding, you're not necessarily worried about your quarterbacks. And I'm assuming you probably have a good one. I'm waiting for him to tell me he's got Mahomes and he's rebuilt this team before the season even finished.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He's already a contender.
He turned it into a contender about 5 weeks in, right?
I don't know what you want to call that. That's a tiger statue or something, but he turned it into something. No, that's cool, man. That's exactly what you want to do. That's what you want to do. So I'm going to go with Rachaad White with 112. I think, he's somebody that you could easily see rise up in value. Something happened to Fournette. This team will be interesting to see what they do next year. I know Fournette's under contract, but that could be moved. Things could happen. We don't know what's going to happen with Brady, but I highly doubt that Brady is going to be back there next year. And they could look to blow it up, and that would include getting rid of pieces like Lenny. Yes, you got Kittle, you got Jefferson, you got multiple firsts, you got first in 2000. Geno Smith. Yeah, I'm fine with that. We talked about already. Geno's my guy. I got more shares of Geno than anybody else. And I just put Geno as my number 24th ranked dynasty quarterback. And I know that may sound low, but I know with his age, people act like he's ancient. I got him for 2/3. And I think that he's a steal. And I don't think it's out of the realm possibility. He's a starting quarterback next year.
I offered a second for him and got turned down in a league where I'm a contender.
Bailey Zappi's interesting too. So let's get back moving on this. So who do you got here at 201?
All right, now I'm going to go with Alec Pierce, wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. We've seen him be a little bit of a target guy, and he's getting a little bit more opportunity as as the season progresses. So we're going to go Alec Pierce here.
Nice pick. All right, I'm going to take your boy Kenny Pickett. I do like what I see in 8 quarters, roughly 8 quarters. We've seen quite a bit of fantasy points out of him. If he didn't have those 3 turnovers week 1, he would have had a 20-point game. He scored 14 points in 2 quarters, trying to come back, had 3 turnovers that took his score down. Then he had 17 points the next week in a 300 yards, no touchdown game. Shows a little bit of rushing. The team really likes him. They really rally around him. Then he was on pace to have a decent game. He had 10 points in the first half, but he got banged up after he threw his first touchdown. He got a concussion. He'll probably be out this week with the way they're handling things.
It's already been named. Mitch Trubisky's the starter this week.
Yeah. Yep. So, but I do like him moving forward.
Yeah. The other thing to think about is just real quick, if you're box score scouting, you see those 3 picks, you're like, oh my God, he threw 3 interceptions in a half. Recognize really one of those was at the end of a half or the end of the game, just a Hail Mary kind of toss up. That one you can kind of throw out. The other 2 were off one of which was really egregious, hit Deontay Johnson right in the hands and missed. The other one hit Chase Claypool in the hands. Should he have caught it? Probably, but it still wasn't a great pass. So, 2 of those 3 can really be taken away from Kenny Pickett. I know that's not from a fantasy perspective. That doesn't happen, but just there's some context around those interceptions to keep in mind around Kenny Pickett as well. But moving on, I'm going to go with James Cook here. This is crazy low for me to see a guy that I think the Bills really had a plan for, and it really did kind of get derailed a little bit in that first game where he fumbled, I feel like. So it's going to start to come to fruition a little bit, I think, in the long term. So James Cook at the 203 is good value for me.
Yeah, and we're just going to take a quick break and check in with the sponsors and be right back. The first one that I want to talk to you guys about is the No House Advantage. No House Advantage is changing the game by offering the most dynamic fantasy sports platform available today. You can play in pick'em contests versus other people for the shot to win $250K plus in cash. Download the app, choose a contest, select your player props, earn points for correct picks, and climb the leaderboard for your shot to win big money every day. You can also test your skills versus the house and 20 times your entry if you hit all of your picks. Bet on up to 5 player props, over and unders, or your individual player matchups across every major sports, including NFL, NBA, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and MLB. Sign up now with promo code SGPN at nohouseadvantage.com or download the app on the app stores to get a first deposit match up to $25. Make sure you check out No House Advantage today and experience daily sports redefined, because it's not just how you play, but where you play. You don't want to miss out on this.
All right. And if you're like me, there's definitely probably a foreign language that you regret not learning or really not paying attention to in those French or Spanish classes that you were in high school. But it's never too late to start with Babbel. Babbel is a language learning app that's sold to more than 10 million subscriptions. Thanks to Babbel's addictively fun and easy bite-sized language lessons, you can finally cross learning that new language off your list. Look, my daughter, she just started the 8th grade. She's in her first year of French. We joined Babbel, got our little family subscription. We sat around the dinner table for just 10 minutes. You can complete a lesson so that you can start having those real life conversations in a new language as little as 3 weeks. We try, but we absolutely suck at it. So don't be shameful if you can't get there in that 3 weeks. But they, other language learning apps use AI for the lesson plans, but Babbel lessons were created by over 150 language experts, and they're voiced by native speakers and not computers. Their teaching method has been scientifically proven to be effective also. So with Babbel, you can choose from over 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German. Plus, Babbel's speech recognition technology helps you improve your pronunciation and accent, and it's a huge pain in the ass. Let me tell you, you sit there, and it will just not let you progress until you get it pronounced right. It is it drives you bonkers, but it makes sure that you're saying it right, and you've got that right accent. So it's really cool. There are so many ways to learn with Babbel. In addition to lessons, you can access podcasts, games, videos, stories, or even live classes. Plus, it comes with a 20-day money-back guarantee. So start your new language learning journey with Babbel. Right now, get up to 55% off your subscription when you go to babbel.com/SGP. Again, that's babbel.com/SGP for up to 55% off your subscription. Babbel, language for life.
All right, well, let's get back into it. And so the next pick, I'm gonna go with some Romeo Doubs.
Ooh, look at you stealing my guy. You just had to do that, didn't you? Romeo Doubs.
I don't have the board. I don't have the board in front of me to scroll, and I'm still upset about the Alec Pierce pick a few picks ago. So
Nice.
I had to do it.
Nice. All right, so Romeo Doubs goes there. I'm going to go with here a guy that we've only really seen a week to 2 weeks of production out of, or really even playing time of, but everything points towards him being a guy that the organization really likes. And there's a whole lot of people in the organization that they apparently don't like, and that's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver for the New York Giants. They don't seem to like Kadarius Toney. They don't seem to like Kenny Galladay. So there's really only one person left after Sterling Shepard went on IR, and that is Wan'Dale Robinson, my man from the University of Kentucky.
And I know that it's a messy backfield, but I'm going to go with Brian Robinson. He's still on the board, and Brian Robinson is a starting running back in the NFL. In his third game, coming back from injury, he should continue to grow into this offense. And Antonio Gibson's someone that could be on the way out. But Brian Robinson is starting running back, and being able to get him, at the beginning or middle of your second round is a steal.
Yep. So I'm going to go with another running back here, and that's going to be Zamir White, running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. We talked a little bit about him earlier on in the show. There's just a lot of question marks around what is going to be happening with Josh Jacobs, and this organization took Zamir White, so I think he's going to get an opportunity to win that starting role moving into 2023.
And I'm going to go with Trey McBride, the number 1 tight end in the class.
All right, for me, I'm going to go with this is my homer pick. I'm late in the second. I'm going with my only Cleveland Brown of the draft, and that's going to be David Bell. I'm just going to take a guy who's tied to what I hope is still an elite quarterback in Deshaun Watson, in a most likely a little bit more pass-heavy offense once he comes in to start playing.
And I'm gonna stick with the tight end position and go with Greg Dulcich here. You definitely, if you have an elite tight end, you're definitely not having to struggle like everyone else. And so I'm going to take 2 shots at it.
All right, now we're getting into the nitty gritty, and I think I'm going to go with a guy that's really showed a little bit of prospect in Buffalo, and that's going to be Khalil Shakir, the current slot wide receiver. As long as Isaiah McKenzie keeps getting himself hurt, he's looked really good when given the opportunity, and he's a guy that I think adds a little bit of spark to that offense as well.
All right, last pick. I'm trying to check the board out. Can you scroll up a little bit for me, sir? All right, scrolling down. Is there anywhere to scroll up?
No, that was as far up as it goes. Christian Watson was the top of that list.
Oh man, it is a little messy out there. I'm gonna stick with Christian Watson. Not a huge fan of Christian Watson coming out, but the Packers did invest a lot in him. He's got a lot of upside with that, with that athletic profile. Let's stick it out. Let's go there. That is the 2 rounds that we're gonna stick with. Let us know who we missed on, who you guys would have picked differently, and what do you guys think? Brad, let's talk about. I think we already had a good case study for a rebuild, but
yeah, right.
let's check back in with the sponsors and then go back to the rebuild before we get out of here. And I just want to remember to tell you guys about Fubo TV. If you're watching the show, you watch football, you need Fubo TV. Fubo TV gives you complete coverage of college and pro football with NFL Red Zone, plus games at 4K at no extra charge. Over 100 channels of live sports entertainment for a fraction of the price of cable. Watch on all your devices, never miss a game or an episode of your favorite shows with included iCloud, cloud-based DVR. Plus, there's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time. Right now, you can try Fubo TV free for 7 days and get 15% off your first month. Just go to FuboTV.com/SGP. That's Fubo.com, FuboTV.com/SGP.
All right, and we talked about prop bets a little bit earlier, and you've got all these sports books with all the different odds and all the different lines. But let me tell you about a place called Odds Trader. Odds Trader is a place that you can compare all the odds from all your major sports books. You can also compare the different sign-up codes and promotions from all those sports books to make sure you're getting the best deal available. The app also provides player statistics, key game stats, injury reports, and projected game day weather for bettors to make the most informed bets possible. It also has a bet tracker so that you can keep track of the records of all your games and your betting activities. So go to oddstrader.com/bluewire. Again, that's oddstrader.com/bluewire. OddsTrader, the number one site for all your game day bets.
All right, well, let's hear about this case study.
All right, so let me get my screen share up, and we've talked a lot about the rebuilds and the do's and don'ts we talked about the last show and things like that. We're going to put all that into a little bit of practice here, if I can get my screens to cooperate with me, and look at a situation where, you know what, I'm just going to ask for your help. I'm just going to ask for your help because I'm in a situation where I have a 1-5 team right now. And you're going to look at this team and you're going to say, Brad, how the hell are you 1-5? And here's the reason that I wanted to use this as our case study, right? Everybody kind of looks at situations where they say, you know what? I'm 1-5. I'm just going to start rebuilding. But they don't look at some of those other things. What injuries do I have coming back? What's the most points for that have been put up, right? Am I putting up a bunch of points and I just kind of had some weeks and matchups with some guys that I don't really, that just scored the highest week or whatever? So here's the starting roster right now. This is a 12-team super flex full point PPR league. So just for a little bit of context, the quarterbacks are Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, and Bailey Zappi. Now, I did just trade for Matt Ryan and Bailey Zappi just for a little bit of context. I needed a win. I had to basically buy a win. So I made a trade to go get Matt Ryan because of bye weeks. My running backs are Nick Chubb, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne, James Robinson, and then if you go down to my IR, I've got Javonte Williams and Rashad Penny. That hurt. The Javonte Williams really hurt. But there's depth there with Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb and James Robinson and Travis Etienne. That depth is there. Then you go to the wide receiver position. You got Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, and then Jacoby Myers. And then those flyers, my man Paris Campbell, who Dave makes fun of me every week about, Shi Smith, who I have a lot of belief in just from I think he's getting some opportunity standpoint. And then I got some guys on my taxi squad down at the bottom. My tight ends, Dalton Schultz and Evan Ingram. So I have no picks in 2023 in this league, none whatsoever. So the question that you find yourself in is, well, what do? You look at the squad and you're like, damn, this is a good squad. It's got the number 3 most points for in the league. Just some bad luck, some injuries, guys hitting on different weeks, so on and so forth. So what do you do in a situation like this, Dave, when you look at your team and you say, you know what, I think I really do have a contender. I just need to figure out how to squeeze into the playoffs. Do you say, you know what, I've got some older pieces, I'm going to sell out, I'm going to get some picks, I'm going to look at 2023, or do you stay all in with this and try to figure it out?
So here's the move that will help you make the decision. You find out who has your pick, and you see if you can acquire said pick. If not, I'm going to do whatever I can to make that pick as bad as it can be. So looking at this team, yeah, if this team gets to the playoffs, you can do some damage. The problem is that you need to basically win out.
Yep.
And so if you're an 8-team playoff or a 16 playoff, that makes a difference. And if there's, if you're only 3 games out because, everybody else is 2 and 4, those things make a difference. But if you don't have your first round pick, then it gives you a little bit less motivation to go and tank. So before you make that decision, the first person that you're calling to sell to is the person that owns your pick. Because the minute you start to sell off your pick, he's going to go, nope, I see what you're doing. And there's no way I'm giving you your pick, you know? So, but if he's, he wants Nick Chubb and he wants, he wants you to throw in like James Robinson and Nick Chubb or Brandon Cooks, cool. Take your first overall, then you go and rebuild and do it right. But if you don't have your own first pick, you're already at a disadvantage because everything you do to make your team worse this year only benefits one of your competitors.
Yep. And it's tough because you're the defending champ in this situation. You won last season. You come in, you can shut the league down if you win. And preseason, you're looking at the squad and you're like, there's no way that anybody is beating this team. This is like, I don't know, not paper tiger. This is like golden tiger, man. Like I was legitimately looking at this team like there is no way that I am not at a minimum a top 2 or top 3 team. And the chips have just not fallen that way. And that's how fantasy football is, unfortunately. The chips don't always fall. It is a luck game as much as we don't want to say it is. Who scored the most points that week? Craig Reynolds goes off just because I see his name on the screen here. Greg Dortch, waiver wire pickup, puts you, hurt you in week 1. All these different things can happen, and you just can't project it. So you have to be honest with yourself and say, do I legitimately think that this is a contending type roster? And while I do think this is a contending type roster, the problem is I got to make the playoffs for it to matter. Otherwise, you're up shit creek, for lack of a better term. Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Amari Cooper, Mike Williams, all 28 years old. Now, Adam Thielen's 32. Devontae Adams, 29 years old, right? You got a lot. Alvin Kamara, 27. Nick Chubb, 26. There are a lot of older pieces. So if you don't make the playoffs here, you still have a window to sell close to the playoffs, which I think is the trick here, right? I don't think right now is the time to sell these players because these are top tier players. And I do think that matters also when you're looking at a rebuild. When is the right time to sell? When am I going to get the most value? And you're going to get the most value close to the trade deadline when other teams are looking to try to make the playoffs. And now you're going to have a better idea. Maybe you do win out. Maybe you go from 1-5 to 6-5, and you're looking at a team that's an above 500 team, number 7 in the league, 2 weeks before the playoff starts, and you say, you know what? I need to go all in. Let's figure out how to make this work. Or maybe you're 5-7 and you say, you know what? Now is the time to sell. Trade deadlines next week, week 13. Let's get these players to some, to the teams that, and this is the nuance to it. Who do you sell to, Dave? Do you sell to the guys that you think are going to win? Or do you sell to the guys that you think they're playoff teams, but they're really not contenders in the grand scheme?
No, I mean, Jeffrey said it earlier. You go to the paper tigers. Like, here's what I did the other day. And I had a trade that was sent to me, and I saw that team needed a quarterback. They needed this win. And then I got an offer for his pick. So I knew that getting his pick would likely cause him to lose because he was out. He had his Deshaun Watson and Tua, and so he had one quarterback left, and he wanted Russell Wilson from me, which honestly might have been a landmine if I sent Russell Wilson over there too. But I got his pick, and when I originally got his pick, it was kind of perceived as a mid to late pick. Not anymore.
Yep.
I mean, he's 2-4, and this is a roster that 1 or 2 injuries, it could easily be and end up being a 5-win team. So look at those teams and look at the points for. And there's also, I think on Sleeper they have a projected points because they kind of show you how bad
max points for and a points for. So
yeah, they'll show you how bad of a roster manager you are.
Yeah.
Because they'll say, man, Brad, your team's good, but you suck. Like you're supposed to get.
That's basically
points.
what happened, right? I just made the wrong start-sit decisions every single week.
Yeah, your team.
So don't take start-sit decisions from me.
Yeah, your team could have got 1,000 points, but you got 600 somehow, you idiot.
Yeah.
And then,
oh man,
we were going through that in one of my leagues today, but that's what I'm doing. Like that team, like what team is your? They're somehow they're 4-2, but they got they have the 11th most points in league. That's who you target. Don't just look at record, and also like look at the teams that just have injuries. Like that team. Like where are they? Like is that team, did they just lose somebody? Are they, what kind of position are they? There hasn't really been, I want to say jinx it and say not too many major injuries, but like, Marquise Brown just went out for a while. We've had some injuries that, Javonte Williams team, that's probably a big piece of their team. And so
I've been trying to move Javonte Williams in this league to make sure I can still contend. And now it's like, you know what? I should.
Yeah. And for me, what I'm looking at is I'm looking right at your tight end position. And if Schultz shows up and does well, your team's going to right the ship.
Yeah.
But I would try to find a way to right that position because right now with the way Schultz is playing, it's not good.
Well, the problem this year though is, who do you go? The tight end position is gross this year.
Well, I mean,
right? Do you go for Hayden Hurst who might not even play this week?
You got 6 minutes to acquire Zach Ertz, and Zach Ertz has been one of the most consistent guys.
He's on a contender though, and that's not going to happen.
Yeah, so you have to kind of look and see who are some of your options from the contenders, from the ones that are not contending,
right?
And see if you can get somebody on the cheap. But like, I mean, you just got to hope that Dalton Schultz kind of rights the ship.
Yep. Yeah, I'll reiterate something you mentioned earlier around, selling those to the paper tigers, right? I moved Baker Mayfield for a second to a team who thinks he's going to come back and start and be his bye-week quarterback later on, and I think his team is trash, right? So that second could turn into a very early second for a guy who might not have, very feasibly, might not even be a starting quarterback moving into next year. So look at all of that stuff. You're at the point now of the season where there are a lot of variables that you got to take into point before you take draft picks or before you move players right now. And you got to look at all of that stuff in totality before you make a move. So,
yep. All right. Anything else on this one?
No, I think so. I think we're good. We're good. I just thought it was a good one because it's a team that you look at on paper and you're like, that's a monster team. And then you see the record and you're like, oh shit, no, it's not. Okay, this is a real life scenario. What do you do here? And it's hard because it's a really good team, but you got to make a decision, right? And making that decision is tough, but one you've got to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got a similar team in the league that we're in, where the team definitely is much better than the record. The points show. And I've got some guys back coming healthy, and we'll see. We'll see. But if I don't win this week, it's probably going to end up rebuilding, and we'll see from there. But I already got that guy's 2023 first, so we're in the right path.
Perfect.
All right. Well, you guys make sure you check out the channel. We're going to be doing another giveaway. I got a Deebo Samuel signed jersey. We're going to be giving away here soon. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Hit that notifications button. Comment, let us know. As always, good luck this season.
Cheers.